For nearly a century, one family business in Colorado has been fighting to survive, fighting to be part of the 3% of businesses. But for fourth-generation owner David Perkins, the path to survival was paved with near disasters.
Great-grandpa had a massive heart attack and passed away before they had really done much transition planning. The poster child for how not to transition a business over within a family. Bigger conglomerates coming in and buying out the family stores and the mom and pop stores.
So in a world designed to crush the family business, how did he not only avoid failure, but find an unexpected advantage in the biggest crisis of our lifetime?
COVID was probably the best thing that could have happened to dealerships in the auto industry.
All right, folks. So we want to take a quick minute to introduce our diamond sponsor, Chris Seegers with Exceptional Business Advisors. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your business, sir?
Man, a question that we love to ask our potential clients is, do you know what your business is worth? And if you sold your business today, would it fulfill your personal and financial goals? If you're a successful business owner, but you don't know when or how to sell your business, and if you've ever wondered what each additional day in your business is actually costing you, we'd love to chat. If you're ready to spend more time with your family, your friends, or traveling, come sit down with our team, because when you work with exceptional business advisors, we'll help you build a blueprint to sell your business successfully and help you create, capture, and achieve your dream life. Don't wait for the right time. The time's now. Go ahead and scan the QR code or book a discovery appointment at excoadvisors.com.
Now let's get back to the show.
Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast, the number one business podcast in Colorado. Today's sponsor is RainTech. They're actually an IT company here in Colorado Springs. They actually have been around for 20 plus years. So great company. It's rain.tech if you want to look up any information about them. And I'm actually going to serve it over to my co-host, Chris, for today. He's going to introduce our guests for the first time.
Yeah, we're super excited to welcome the big cheese of Perkins, the head honcho, El Jefe, El Capitan of Perkins Motors, David Perkins. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, man, we're excited to have you and really want to just dig into your story and hear a little bit about it. It's pretty incredible.
So it's a 5-minute episode?
I think so.
Maybe?
Yeah, 5 to 7.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Let's peel it back. Start from the very beginning. We know it's a family business, but start from the beginning with your family and how it started with your business.
Well, that'll go back. So it was actually started by my great grandpa back in 1944 was our dealership, but he had previous experience. He had a shop, mechanic shop on the Western Slope, and then he was in Rocky Ford for a little bit before he landed here in Colorado Springs, and he started the store. 1944. It was actually him and his neighbor was the mortuary and Mortician, and he was actually the partner in the business when it first started.
Oh, wow.
The kind of the money behind getting it up and rolling, and so they started the dealership. At that point, we were the third or fourth Chrysler Plymouth DeSoto franchise in Colorado Springs at that point in time. So you look back that many years ago to have, that's more franchises than we have right now in the Springs. So it was also during World War II, when at that point when we got the franchise, they weren't actually building new cars. So we got the franchise, but got parts and sold used cars.
Interesting.
So that kind of got the dealership started, and my grandpa, after high school, went to college, actually played minor league baseball for a couple of years, and came back and was working in the business with my great grandpa, and call that family transition 101. Went about it in kind of a rough way. Great grandpa had a massive heart attack and passed away before they had really done much transition planning, and that could take you down a whole other path of things they had to go through and family members that were involved in the business because of a lack of really getting things structured correctly. And but he was about a little over 30 when my great grandpa passed away.
Wow.
And then ran it, and my dad jumped in out of college and built his way up and took over when he was around 30 years old. And I kind of followed the same path. So after college, came back and got in the business, and my dad retired around when I was about 30, and it's kind of been the path of the business.
Nice. How many cars do you think they were selling back in your grandpa's days compared to how many you're selling now?
That could be it. I mean, throughout the course of time, it changed drastically. And I mean, we changed locations, built it quite a bit bigger, but I'm sure it was in the teens, 10, 15 a month early on. And the kind of our peak time, we've been 250 a month.
Wow.
And it obviously fluctuates, and that was back 2017, 2016 time period. But
It's crazy. How was that transition from your grandpa to your dad and from your dad to you? And share what you want to share. But I know with family businesses, that can be pretty tough.
it can be, and that's, I would say, I probably didn't dive in, and we've talked about it, but it's something in hindsight, it would have been interesting to sit down with both my grandpa and my dad, because that's the one thing I never really got a ton of time to talk to my grandpa about the business from that side of it. And from my dad's perspective, it was interesting because my grandpa had never had to go through the transition, actually thinking out that transition planning, and obviously different time period, different legal environment and everything else. But I think because of that, it didn't really set the stage for how they were going to transition. And so kind of the poster child for how not to transition a business over within a family. And I mean, it was really, not speaking poorly of him, it benefited me greatly, but poorly planned out, poorly executed. It was, over a 10-year time period that they did some of the transition, and my dad has siblings that were involved in part of that, and I won't go into the details of how my grandpa split everything up and handled that, but from the person involved in the business, really kind of got the short end of the stick with how they transitioned everything. And so
That's tough.
for my benefit, obviously my dad had to go through it that way. We were a lot more intentional with making sure we planned it out, and what he had to suffer through, I got the benefit of not having to necessarily go through, because he knew he didn't want to do that to me. And still, I've got siblings, and none of them involved in the business. But he wanted to make sure we were all taken care of, but that I didn't have to go through what he went through.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's tough. And when you were younger, did you know you were going to take over the business? Like, talk about that too, because you said you have siblings. Was that ever crossing your mind when you were younger that one day you might take on the family legacy of the business?
I think at the back of my mind, yes, and I would say as I went through college, the stupid answer is I had no real direction of what I wanted to do, so I went with the business degree because it's at least applicable in anything, and it's multiple choice test for the most part.
Exactly.
No papers, long essays, but went through that process, and again, I think in the back of my mind just had that inkling of I'd probably come back to the business, and that's what I would do. So once I graduated, without having a strong passion of, oh, I really want to go do this, or I want to go be a pilot or whatever that may be, I kind of was the default easy path to an extent, which is not always the best plan, but worked out. And it was, I was in that unique position where we did have a decent sized family owned dealership. And in the automotive environment, from a dealership stance, there's not a lot of opportunities to go down that path, and have a little bit of a easier path into the ownership side of it, and being the dealer. And so that was one of the things. It's without knowing or having a clear draw of I want to go one direction or another. It's a hard thing. It was also a hard thing to pass on the opportunity that, most people would never have the chance to do.
We'd like to take a quick break and thank our sponsors.
Junkin' Hall.
Need to clear out clutter fast?
Junkin' Hall is Colorado Springs' go-to for same-day junk removal.
With the eco-friendly service and a 5-star team you can trust.
Visit junkinhall.com to schedule your free estimate today. That's JUNKNHAUL.com.
Bolton Co. Executive Coaching.
Up feels better than stuck. You know that. But in this market, how do you get unstuck and get ahead as an executive?
Our guy JB is an executive coach at Bolton Co. Coaching, where he believes you don't have to change who you are. You just need an injection of effectiveness and a proven competitive edge roadmap for your way up. Head to boltonco.net. That's boltonco.net. Be Our Guest Getaways. Be Our Guest Getaways specializes in Disney cruise resort and theme park vacations.
Planning a Disney vacation can be stressful. Let Be Our Guest Getaways provide you with concierge-level service for free.
Learn more at beourguestgetaways.com. That's beourguestgetaways.com.
Planet Duct. Planet Duct is the #1 choice for professional air duct cleaning in Colorado Springs and Southern Colorado. With state-of-the-art equipment and top-tier service, they make sure the air in your home or business is clean and allergen-free. Breathe easier with Planet Duct. Learn more at planetduct.com.
Awesome Home Services. Awesome Home Services delivers top-notch HVAC solutions for your home. Whether you need heating, cooling, or system maintenance, they ensure your comfort year-round. Visit awesomeservice.com for your HVAC needs. That's awesomeservice.com.
Proud American Electrical and Solar.
Give Proud American Electrical and Solar a call today for all your electrical and solar needs. They are locally owned and operated business right here in Colorado Springs. If you're looking for information on solar, this is the company you will want to call. Check out their website at proudamericansolar.com. Use promo code COSBusiness for a 5% discount today.
Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care.
Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care offers affordable, accessible healthcare with a focus on you. They provide exceptional primary care without the hassle of insurance barriers. Experience a patient-centered approach. Learn more at pinnacleapc.com.
And now let's get back to the show.
It seems like dealerships are a lot of times multi-generational businesses, but it seems like in the past 10 years, from what I've seen, that's changing where they're getting purchased. Is that true or not?
To an extent, and I think that's kind of every industry you look at also. I mean, I'd say automotive, it is a unique environment, and there historically were a lot more family-owned dealerships just because there weren't the big conglomerations. There weren't the big publicly traded groups, and even the big private groups. It takes years to build up that type of capital and the ability to expand to that level. And even from a software standpoint, technology standpoint, the scale with which you can operate multiple dealerships wasn't. You look back 30 years, you just didn't have the economies of scale that you do now. And so now it is a lot easier having kind of a parent organization that can then trickle down and operate stores from a lower expense standpoint and an overhead standpoint than what it used to be. And so I think you see that in it's easier to generate profit out of each store with the bigger corporations. And justifies for them why they can go out and pay some of the money that they're paying to buy out some of the family dealerships.
Mm-hmm.
The other side of it is, and that's family businesses, the transition down. I'm going to make up statistics here, but
fact check them. Ready, Andrew? Okay.
Good luck. I mean, the reality of it is family businesses transitioning down from first generation to second generation. I think it's under 50% survive that second generation, and third get substantially worse, and fourth generation. And that's always been my joke is, okay, I'm fourth generation. It's somewhere under, I think, 6% family businesses survive into the fourth generation and make it past that. So for me, then there was no expectation it was going to work. And so if I made it 2 years, then I still beat out most of the others.
Yeah.
But I think that also.
So only about 3% reach fourth generation.
Okay, 3%.
Wow, makes your odds even better for yourself for what you've done.
90% out there.
Third generation
97.
or fourth generation.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild.
So
you're very special, David.
I tell myself that every day.
Wow,
okay.
That's pretty
That's
impressive.
really interesting.
Yeah. Now you got me way off track where I was.
It's
going
all
with
good.
that, but
Okay, so as we think about multiple generations, stylistically, how are you different than your dad, and how do you run the business differently? Because there's probably very specific generational differences that would be really interesting.
Yeah, I would say there's between my grandpa and my dad, there's a lot of differences. It's myself and my dad. My dad and I are a lot more alike, which is probably not a good thing than my dad and my grandpa were. But it's also the time period and size of the store drastically changes all of that. So when my grandpa was there, I mean, he sold cars. There was a lot of different hats he had to wear, and was very hands-on in a lot of it. And didn't have the staff size or the support system there just because there couldn't be. And so my dad was, I would say, a lot less hands-on. He grew up in the business like my grandpa had, and had filled a lot of the different roles. But at the point my dad was in there, being a dealer was drastically different than where my grandpa was. And the size we had grown to, it's not, you can't be the dealer and be the general sales manager and, work car deals and help in service and allocate the time you need to actually be the dealer then and continue growth. You try to do that, then you get stagnant and go backwards. And that's, you see that. I've got 2 small dealerships in La Junta, Colorado, and very different the size wise. My partner in those stores, shout out to DJ, wears pretty much every hat. I mean, we have a staff. We've got 2 stores down there, and there's about 20 employees total. So we have a service advisor out sick. He'll have to jump back there and help out.
Oh, wow.
So again, very, very different than here. We have a service advisor out sick. The last person they want coming down there is me. So, while my dad was kind of in the dealer role, it really kind of shifted from a technology standpoint and just size of the store standpoint, that trying to have your hands involved in everything just wouldn't work. And so he was able to kind of transition into that. And he struggled some, and this is where he and I are alike. We are both very hands-on and have a hard time giving up some of that control. And that's, I think helped the way we transitioned. I came in part of it because he didn't want to keep working for years, but I came in and very different than a lot of dealers' family succession plans go. I didn't work in every department and kind of fill every role because my dad didn't want to wait 10 years to see if it was something that I wanted to do. But in doing that, it forced me to learn the business, but not go do everything where I had that expertise. I could run a sales department, run a service department. I know what it needs to look like. I know how we want it structured, but I also know my personality. If I had done that, I would spend 90% of my time, which don't ask our staff because I think I do anyway, but I'd spend all my time going in trying to do their jobs. And so I know it doesn't really answer the question you asked of how we're different and how we approach it, but
No, I think that does. I mean, working in the business versus working on the business. And it was, I think, that generational, being the technical expert and the business owner. Now the scale is so big, you have to be the business owner.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you don't, the treadmill's going so fast, you won't be able to keep up. So it's interesting.
Yeah. What year was the official year that you took over as owner of the dealership?
Well, it's semantics, but owner would be different. But when my dad retired, it was 2013.
Yeah.
Still working on the full ownership piece, but that's the business transition side. So yeah, it was 2013 is when he retired, and I took on the role of president.
Interesting times too. My mother was a classified ad director in the 90s and I'm sure she worked with your dad. But like, I know how big of a challenge it was during that time. And even in the tens of like the transition of like direct to consumer going internet for listing these cars, and that whole technological change from just like being on a newspaper and someone coming in versus someone seeing something online, talking to somebody online. Like, were you a part of that whole transition? Because I'm assuming 2013, it was still transitioning to being fully online and people looking at cars and knowing all that information before coming in or setting up an appointment. Talk about that transition.
Yeah, and it was 2013 is when I took over, but I had been in the business since 2006 when I graduated from college, and actually sold prior to that when I was in college. And so really 02, 03 was the start of a lot of the transition. I don't know when Auto Trader started up, but that was really the big push. And I would say we were somewhat on the forefront of
1997.
That digital size.
1997.
97. So yeah, so
Interesting.
early 2000s when it really kind of took off. And around that time period, most stores had a website, but the infrastructure behind all that, the inventory feed, and it really was in its infancy. And so it was over the course of that next 10 years is when that really all started taking off. And I'd say when we were 2003, when I was selling, you look at CRMs and, you go back at that point, then you have all we're going to call them more experienced people, salespeople complaining because they're taking away their card catalog and their, that side of it and going more electronic. But at that point we had one computer for 12, 15 salespeople.
Wow.
That you have a customer come in, you got to go log in and input their information. And not too long after that is when you start getting more and more fully integrated CRMs and the follow-up process, and again, making to an extent the sales job a little bit easier, but really giving more time to do follow-up and be intentional with that and have that more structured. And that all has just been steadily building. And other aspects and pieces of the industry picking up, and in our side of it, it does make it tough because there's so many competitors out there that, from a vendor standpoint, that all do great things, but you got to kind of pare it down, what makes sense and what's really going to integrate well together to hopefully give the customer and us a good experience through that process.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. And that's why I was asking you, because I know like back then she managed a massive hundreds of millions of dollars of budget just here in Colorado Springs for the auto dealers. Just because, I mean, what did you have back then? You had television, you had newspapers and some catalogs. I mean, there wasn't radio for sure.
Wheel deals and
yeah. And so like she was part of the implementation team across the country, like going newspaper, because dealers were actually one of the first to adopt like online direct to consumer faster than most people, just because, I mean, they had the pocketbooks to really, they were a big pocketbook for the newspapers for advertising.
We had better margins back then.
Yeah, great margins. I mean, yeah, we could talk about that too, because I know there's other dealers that you've opened and things like that. But like, it's very interesting because that was a very interesting time for you guys. And how do you do it now? Because there's so many tools, like you were talking about before. Like, there's a lot of tools out there now, right? There's email blasts, there's social media posting, there's now there, of course, you're listing online. There's you can sell
podcasts, the greatest utility ever.
Yeah, podcasts.
Who listens to that?
Someone's gonna comment, timestamp that. Yeah.
No, it's when I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But it is tough, and you look back. It's forced everybody, and I mean, we talked about the bigger stores or the bigger conglomerates coming in and buying out the family stores and the mom and pop stores, and part of it is because of that. There's from margin compression to just the amount of expense that's out there just to stay relevant is tough. And so you look from a marketing standpoint. Back then, you had the newspaper, TV ads, really all the traditional media, TV, right, radio, newspaper, and then you start throwing in all the third-party lead providers led by Auto Trader, and then Cars.com, Car Gurus, all the others that have then kind of crept up there, and it is a struggle to figure out, okay, what's relevant? Do we want to give up that potential lead source, or do we spend all the money in the world and have all of them and try to prioritize it? And I'd say that's half the battle is just balancing that and seeing what makes sense. And now as all that's progressed, there's a whole lot more data to look at and analyze that in theory is going to lead you to make better decisions, but it's also a whole lot of noise out there that kind of muddies the water. And you look at, again, started by Auto Trader, but the term attribution, and you look at all these reports and follow all the data now that we can track you wherever you are, whatever device you're on. And you have all that information, but it doesn't always give you enough to make better decisions with. You're going to search for a car, you look on Auto Trader, you look on Cars.com, you Google the type of car you're looking for, and then you somehow get to our website. I could have spent $800 just trying to get you to get to our website, which ideally is where we want you. And so the attribution studies, all that information can help tell me that, hey, you hit all these different places. Maybe there's a benefit to which one you hit first, but ultimately you hit all of them. So should we spend money with all of them, or do we pick and choose one or two and hope that because you saw our car on one spot, you're still going to end up on our website? So it is a tough thing to look at, because you've got a lot of data that in theory is going to help you make a better decision, but it also makes it tougher.
Yeah.
And then on top of that is just, there's so many more places that and noise out there that you've got to figure out, okay, where do we want to go after? You talk about podcasts, you talk about streaming TV, you know, Amazon held out for a long time. And then 2 years ago a year and a half ago, started doing ads on theirs. So do you jump into that if you've already got a budget built out but maybe there is reason to, it's a great audience. It's who they let advertise and everything makes it a little bit better place to go after. But now it's the most expensive streaming platform. So it's changed a lot. And ultimately, to answer the question of, we have no idea what we're doing.
Well, it's a lot. And I was going to bring up the Google 7-11-4 rule, which was actually made specifically for dealers. And what it says is that the average person from stranger to customer spends 7 hours of digesting information on your brand. It can be anywhere. And it's across 11 different touch points. So 11 times they're like searching that car. They're getting cars.com, going to Auto Trader, you're going to your website. It costs 4 different channels. So on average, it actually takes 4 different channels for that person to become a customer. And so, I mean, that is part of the comprehensive strategy that you have to input. And it's like, okay, so if that's the average and we know it's 4, like which 4 makes the best ROI for us, you know? So it's hard. You're right. But like, I think that information is very valuable to someone like yourself. They say we're in a trust recession because we get hit with so many ads, you know? I mean, we all get hit with thousands of ads every single day. How do you cut through the mix when everybody's getting hit with 10,000 ads that are just swiping, you know, away from them? How do you stand out? And so that's why social media has become such an important thing, or long-term podcast, because it's like, okay, now we get to know David for who he is, you know, like we get to actually see through, and that authenticity kind of shines through. So
yeah, I mean, I want to buy a truck from you right now, just hanging out with you. You just seem like such a good guy, David.
All right, well, let's go.
Exactly. We're down here. We got to get that TRX.
Pull it out.
It's already outside.
It's going to get you in this car today.
He brought 3 of them each for us to test drive.
Sign the contract on the episode. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah, I love that, man.
We can do that. But no, and yeah, there is a lot of noise out there, but at the end of the day, to an extent, we're still back in I mean, you look at traditional media, it's how many impressions are you getting? How many times are you getting in front of that consumer? And we were talking about it. I was with the vendor earlier today. A lot of times it was viewed, okay, you're wasting money if you're not spending enough to actually get enough impressions. And you look at it from that perspective, but like you said, there's also the opposite end of, you can spend money if you're not being intentional with it. You can alienate people. I mean, how many times have you been watching streaming a show on Hulu or wherever, and because of how their algorithms are or their ad placements, in a hour-long show, you see 15 ads and it's the same company the entire time. And some people that's good, other people that's incentive enough to not do anything with that company because it's just annoying.
For sure.
And so it's finding that balance of how do you get there without being overboard.
Yeah, they call that ad fatigue, and it's a real thing. Like you're talking about, if you're getting shown the same ad like over and over and over again, people are going to get super. I mean, you do the same thing even with posting online. You know, like people are like, okay, we've seen that same template or whatever it might be. It's so true. So and that's why I love talking to dealers, because they understand it to a much higher level to like a normal business owner, because you guys have been in it for so long, and obviously through you, it's been generational as far as tracking those things. And KPIs, key performance indicators, have been changing so much, and it's so important for you to have like a really good team to help you, especially on that front for the attribution, because it does get tricky. And what does this all mean to me? At the end of the day, you just want to sell, you know, like you just want to bring sales in.
And that's where I'll give call it generic answer, what the answer should be, and we strive for, but don't always live up to, but is from a consumer standpoint, from our goal is to sell you your first car, give you the experience, make it an enjoyable experience. And because most people don't like going to a dealer, they don't like getting their vehicle serviced. And if we can change that perspective, then when it is time for you to get another car, or your spouse to get a car, you get a car for your kids, or send friends, family, if we gave you a good enough experience and helped you along that process and didn't make it painful, our goal is that that's what you remember. And so you're less driven to go do the hours and hours of research online and get exposed to all this other noise out there, and let us be your expert. Come back to us and give us the opportunity to help you. And that's what helps bring our ad budget down, because the more referrals we get, repeat customers, then we're not having to spend that type of money to get new people in. And that's the most, getting that new customer for us, that new buyer, is the most expensive advertising you can do. And once you get them in, it's like Amazon. We don't have to be the cheapest. And a lot of people understand that when they're that second, third car, they're buying the vehicle, yes, but they're also buying the experience and the trust that we built. And they're okay with potentially paying a little bit more, instead of having to go do the hours of research and kind of go on a little bit of faith, go and buying somewhere else. And I would say the auto industry doesn't have the best reputation, and it's earned it for a reason. And it's not, there's a lot of regulation out there and things to help eliminate what that reputation came from, but it's still there. And there's still, like every industry, things you can do to manipulate the customer and really not give them that experience they deserve. And so if we can create that and make it easy to come back, it, one, is cheaper to get you back in, and we don't have to spend that marketing money, and you're going to send more people to us.
We're going to take a quick break to thank our sponsors.
HR Branches. Is your back office chaos? Are you buried in HR, payroll, and financial guesswork?
Your passion shouldn't be a prison. Savion HQ is your fractional back office partner. We merge HR, payroll, accounting, and tax to bring order to the chaos and make your passion profitable again.
Stop the bleed, get your freedom back. Find us at savionhq.com or email at hello@savionhq.com.
Data Hubs is a compliance, intelligence, and orchestration platform that helps organizations meet the requirements of frameworks like ISO 27001, SOC 2, CMMC, HIPAA, GDRP, and more.
Data Hubs gives small and mid-sized businesses a premium compliance experience while cutting down the time, cost, and stress it usually takes to get across the finish line. Learn more at datahubs.com. That's datahubz.com.
Reveal Med Spa. Look and feel your best at Reveal Med Spas. With personalized plans that deliver real results, radiant skin, restored confidence, and natural rejuvenation.
At Reveal Med Spa, we see you. More than just aesthetic and wellness treatments, we provide a safe, judgment-free space where you feel valued, heard, and supported.
Visit revealmedspas.com.
I think it is literally just that too. We'll just double check. Book your next session at revealmedspas.com. That's revealmedspas.com. Fast Signs. From banners to vehicle wraps, Fast Signs delivers custom visual solutions to help your business stand out. Their team ensures your message is clear, bold, and effective. Get your signage needed handled at fastsigns.com. That's fastsigns.com.
Dream Accounting Solutions. Take the stress out of managing your books with Dream Accounting Solutions. They provide reliable expert accounting services tailored to small businesses. Simplify your finances at dreamaccountingsolutions.com. That's dreamaccountingsolutions.com.
Exponential Impact. Exponential Impact is driving innovation and entrepreneurial success in Colorado Springs. Supporting startups with mentorship, funding, and community resources, they help businesses grow and thrive. Learn more about their impact at exponentialimpact.com. That's exponentialimpact.com.
And now let's get back to the show.
Where do you think the industry is going? Because it's a really mature industry. And so generally maturation of industry means your margins get compressed. And then there's some sort of usually bigger event where there's a consolidation play and you have private equity or public companies that come in, consolidate, and then eventually there's kind of a reset. But I know like for example, in one of the businesses we own, insurance is very similar, right? Margins are getting compressed, marketing is going way up, and people are just getting sick of seeing it all. And they're trying to figure out, like you said, the truth factor, like what's truth, what isn't, and then they're getting hit on every side. How do you see this industry going in the next kind of 10 to 15 years?
There's a couple directions it could go, but with everything you just said, I would say we're almost in the middle of that, call it correction now, being the family-owned store. I'd say correction going back more our direction. COVID was that huge catalyst from the dealership side. There had already been a lot of consolidation and things happening, but COVID hit. COVID was probably the best thing that could have happened to dealerships in the auto industry in a lot of respects. But a lot of the profit generated really was not sustainable in a lot of respects, and it wasn't driven by anything other than circumstance. And so, I mean, when you do in your realm, you do buy sells and look at valuations and everything, it's based off of typically in the last couple of years worth of net profit. Take a multiplier and that's a lot of how you come up with the valuation. Dealerships are the same thing. And depending on the franchise you have, that multiplier may look very different. For some of them, it could be a 2-3 times multiplier. For some of the imports, and that could be up 10-12 time multiplier.
Wow.
For sure.
But for a lot of the family-owned stores or the stores that maybe hadn't done great transition planning or didn't have somebody in place to turn it over, if it was a dealer towards the later part of their career, it was a perfect opportunity to sell. I mean, you're never going to get more for it. And it was also that time period where all of the big corporations are wanting to expand. They had generated more profit than they had ever had and had the capital to be able to go out and buy a bunch of stores. So you look over the last, 2020 to 23, and I'm going to make this up, don't fact check it, but during that time period, it really was one of the highest buy sell periods in the auto industry. Colorado in particular was extremely high. And so
did those trade to private equity groups primarily, or bigger dealer groups, and did those go well at that multiple?
So it varied. A lot of them went to the bigger groups. You look at some of the Auto Nations and different groups like that. There's both public and private, but bigger dealer groups. They're very aggressive and had the money and wanted to grow. And I would say in some respects, some of those went well. In the aftermath, looking back at it now, those first 3 years of COVID were fantastic. And then the next 2 years were absolutely dismal.
Right.
And so I'm sure, well, I know a lot of them are regretting some of those purchases, and some of them, they bought out other small groups and are now in the process of trying to unload the non-profitable ones. And a lot of those stores have become cash drains on those, the bigger organizations. And so you're seeing that now. You're seeing a lot of those stores that changed hands to bigger corporations now on the market, but it's hard to justify what they want for them just because what they paid for them to an extent does not translate into what they're worth now.
For sure.
And so I think you're seeing a lot of that correction, and over the next 5-10 years, I think you're going to see a little bit more of that. You'll have them continue to unload some of those stores, especially in smaller markets that they bought. But at the end of the day, I think you're still going to see more consolidation, just because, like we talked about, from the overhead costs, the management side of it, the regulation side of it's huge. Having a small single point store is very tough to be able to cover the expenses you need to stay in compliance with everything and spend enough to be relevant and visible.
It's really interesting with family enterprises. We've seen this across every industry. It's the old adage of don't ever sell the family farm. Well, what has happened is you have this massive enterprise value in a lot of these businesses, but way lower cash flow. So you might have a third, fourth generation person that's worth 25 million bucks. And they're like, I'm making $100,000 a year and it's a headache and I'm getting sued. And so it's been really interesting with a lot of our clients to really counsel them on, well, what's the value? Where do you want to go? What's the purpose of this thing? Because sometimes it is like, hey, this might, for example, when the dealerships were selling at asymmetric value, my counsel was probably, hey, you should sell. If someone will pay you this multiplier at this value and your historic cash flow has been this, and probably in 2 years, it's going to be that again, that might be the time to exit. And in the white collar services where my wife is, the financial advisory space is getting purchased at multiples that don't cash flow. And so I've been asking some of these acquisition groups, well, what's your plan, right? You can't go get debt and actually make this thing work. You're going to lose money as soon as you buy this book of business. And their rationale, which I don't agree with, is, well, we buy 10 of them and then we get a higher multiple, so we sell it to somebody else. And I'm like, well, it still doesn't cash flow, right? It still doesn't make you money. So how does that work long term? Which is really fascinating. I think it's going to be an opportunity in 3 to 5 years that when these things fail, there's going to be people that can come in and buy them for a fair multiple and get a really good platform.
That's a really interesting point. They call those like roll-ups, right? When they do that.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Or smash cos, which is probably more appropriate.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Well, and I think so in our industry is, and you see it with them, some of the stores that got bought during COVID and being unloaded right now is in our industry, it is very region specific and it's state specific. So, I mean, it's a franchise model. And though we are, I'm a Stellantis. Stellantis is the parent company of Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, Jeep, Ram, among others. But I mean, it's an international company, but a lot of the regulation, I have a dealer agreement with Stellantis. However, that's a lot of the things within that dealer agreement are superseded by state law and state franchise regulations, which, so jumping state to state, there's a lot of nuances that you can't necessarily just be uniform in your practices, how you operate. And I think you saw that there's groups out of the South and Southeast that came in and bought stores in Colorado, and how you operate and some of the policies you have just don't work. Let alone, I mean, you look at some of the healthcare and things that Colorado, I won't go down a political tangent there, but it's a different environment and thing, and just a whole other level of expense that you have to have, that they came in and can't operate the exact same. And and a lot of them are pretty rigid in their business plan works because you can pass down all your practices and policies and have somebody who may not be as skilled at operating a dealership can still step in there and be the general manager.
For sure.
Because they're just following the playbook. Well, when you're trying to follow a playbook that doesn't necessarily work in this market, it makes it tough. And they've seen that. And from a profit standpoint, okay, let's dump that store because it doesn't fit within how our playbook operates. And
For sure. And
Move
it could
on.
be an awesome opportunity for somebody else
Right.
that wants to dig into that opportunity. Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
fascinating.
It's super fascinating. I also want to dig into this about you because you have done some things since you kind of been running the show a little bit as far as like adapting and doing new things. I had noted here, and it's called Aerie vans. Is that how it's called pronounced?
Aerie vans.
Aerie vans. Aerie
Where'd the name
vans.
come from? The mispronounced name.
So I'm gonna let you look up Aerie and look up the definition, but it's actually a buddy of mine from high school and his brother. This
It
all
means influenza
So-
like illness.
you'd say lightfulness.
Influenza like illness.
Oh, that's
No,
not good.
different Aerie. Sorry.
Influenza like illness.
Aerie.
Okay, that's not it.
Aerie.
Okay, got it. I spelled that wrong.
Kind of a nest.
The fact
Yeah.
checking is excellent today.
Yeah.
I love
Sorry, I
it.
should have spelled it out for you.
I love it.
But one of the definitions is kind of a nest, like a almost bird's nest or what. Anyway, so we built a camper van conversion for commercial Ram ProMasters. And it actually started back years ago. We had a partner a company had approached us. They did camper van conversions, and they just wanted to build a conversion, and so they send customers to us to buy the van, and then they do the conversion side of it and kind of build a partnership so that when you bought the van, we could build the cost of the conversion into the financing of the car deal and do that. And so kind of 2017 to 19, they grew, and really as that whole camper van, the van life movement kind of took form and exploded. And so through that process, my buddy from high school is a contractor and does a lot of other stuff, but was actually looking at buying one, and then decided, I think we could build one that quality wise is really more like the good custom motorhome type quality, and at a price point that makes sense. And so we started going down that path, and we're building the prototype when COVID hit, and COVID was probably the best thing for the van life movement because everybody wanted to get out and away from other people and go camping. And you saw the whole RV industry exploded too because well, I can't go into work and I can go camping. And so we built ours, and really the end of 2020 is when we got the prototype done and got it actually going. And so 21 was the first year we sold them and did decent volume. At that point, then the COVID impact on inventory hit, so didn't come crashing down, but at the same time we couldn't get vans. And so it made it tough because you're trying to build up to meet the demand of what's out there, and you can't do it because you can't get the vans to be able to sell. And we still have them, and we're still building. Volumes slowed down some, but I think we've found a niche in there. We've got a conversion that has a extremely high quality, very customizable, fits. It's not too over contented, so you kind of fit everybody where they're at. If you want to add a bunch of stuff, you can. And but so we started that to kind of answer your question, and out of the demand we saw out there, and I'll say poorly executed some of it, and are there. But I think as interest rates start dropping is another piece that'll start picking back up. It is seasonal. I mean, it's it's not really wintertime isn't the prime time to go
Yeah.
sell a camper van, but there's definitely a market out there, and there's a niche group out there that's what they enjoy. So
Oh yeah. I mean, I have a ton of experience in this industry. I was doing tiny house festivals 10 years ago, and slowly but surely, when I was doing my last one in Colorado Springs was at the Raceway, Pikes Peak National Raceway, and Perkins Motors was actually a sponsor back then. But
we don't need to put their name out there.
Love it. Yeah. But what we found, like doing the tiny house festival, is like slowly the tiny house festival was getting taken over by the van life movement, and we were getting way more vans. And it was, again, 2015 time. So like I hit it right when it was taken off in a big way. And I was doing marketing for a lot of those vendors who were there too. So I was like, not only were they at my show, I had them at my show as a vendor. I do marketing, so I had them as clients. And so I got to know a lot of the specific like Dodge ProMaster builders here, like David Matt Vans or Wayfarer Van. I know all those folks. I've worked with some of them before.
Again, we don't need to throw their name.
I'll bleep it.
Aerie Vans.
Exactly. Aerie Vans.
It's
I
not
pronounced it
like
right. Aerie
influenza.
Vans. But that's, I mean, kudos to you to like adapt and do something like that, like during that time. And it's a very, like you said, it's a super interesting industry. And you go into like the RV side of things. And I never knew that industry until I worked and helped them with that side of things too. And it's very, and what you said, like that trend was exactly what we have felt over the years too. Or they have felt over the years as I've helped them on the side. What was the precipice for you to do that? What were you looking at to do when you were doing that? And then you had your rental company that you started too as well, right? Because I had that noted here as well.
I mean, some of it was opportunity, and I would say, I know this is geared toward the entrepreneur. Don't look at me because I've screwed that up in terms of seeing the opportunity and going and executing well on it. I mean, I think there's a lot of things everybody looks at in hindsight could have done better. I think my list is substantially longer than most, but it's at the end of the day, it's business. Do you see a need there? Is there something you can do that is better than what others do?
Mm-hmm.
And can you make financial sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a lot of opportunity there, fits within the niche of automotive in terms of what I know and have access to. We have had the advantage because we have access to the vans and kind of that exclusive partnership there. And so same thing to an extent with the rental company. And there a lot of dealerships have rental companies, and I would say COVID was another prime example,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of reasons that, having a rental company during COVID was huge. Everybody was trying to get out of their house,
Mm-hmm.
and initially travel was shut down, but then everybody was traveling, going, and also during that time period, there were no cars out there to be able to buy. So the rental companies, their inventories dropped significantly, and so you look at the price point of what just base small cars were renting for in 2022 was just ridiculous. And so again, an opportunity. We have access to vehicles. And tied into, I'm not creative. I don't know how to go out and find new opportunities, but hey, we've got a dealership. If I can figure out ways to pay myself for stuff. So because we have the Aerie vans, another opportunity that, okay, let's have the rental company and we can lump some of the vans in there and use those, which is again, another huge market that grew out of COVID. That camper van rentals was huge. So made sense, and had the infrastructure to be able to start it without somebody breaking in wanting to start a rental company with no partners, the financial piece of that is pretty significant, because you got to buy the cars somewhere, you got to finance them, and so had the natural those natural vendors in inventory there to kind of pick vehicles out of, and from a floor plan stance, be able to use that relationship we have with our banks to build that. So
It's very smart.
I have a really important question. When are we getting hover cars like in Back to the Future? Okay, when was that they said we
wasn't
would
it
have
about
hover
6 years
cars?
ago that we
Yeah, when is that going to happen?
Yeah, it was supposed to be 6 years ago, wasn't it?
We already
Actually,
have them, actually. There's a
Well,
few,
that's-
there's,
it's 'cause
there's
he
a
went
couple
backwards
companies
and
that
changed.
are doing. I wish I could pull the name off tops, but I do follow that. They're called
they're American, of course,
They're called
right?
EV. They're called EV
Exactly.
tolls, actually.
Okay, sweet.
I think we're gonna have flying cars before hover cars. But
Okay. Hey,
Okay,
I'm
maybe
in.
that's what I meant. I meant
Sorry,
flying
now
cars.
for the
That's
real
what I meant.
question from Marcus.
I had a observation. I want to know if this is right for you, but like when I was doing those tiny house
that's
festivals,
wrong.
and say what?
I said that's wrong.
We'll find out. I always advertise my festival and the van life movement for my festival young and sexy and lifestyle and like millennial, like, you know, screw the man, go buy a van, go travel for a year. But the people who would come to the show, it was always a mix, right? It was the millennials, like I just described, and then it was the baby boomers who are just like, we're empty nesters. We want to get out of the house. We have disposable income. They would buy. They would come in and they would buy the vans or the tiny houses. They were the ones who I should have been really targeting my marketing to, because they were the ones who had that disposable income. I'm curious if that's the same case for Aerie vans.
For the most part, yeah, I would say with Aerie vans, and even prior to Aerie vans, with all the other ProMasters we were selling, that was one of the biggest surprises I would say I saw, and is how many of those went to retired couples.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's vans out there. Our setup is it's a 2-passenger camper van, because we're not there are upfitters that'll put a second seat in, but we're taking a cargo van which has the front 2 seats, and so it is a little bit of a niche there, because you got kids and want to take them out, then there's alternatives other than us. But because of that, you're going after either single people or couples. And I would say the 2 largest audiences that we got were retired couples. That there were more 60, 70-year-olds bought vans than you would imagine, which you got to realize these aren't campers. They're vans with some camper
comfort.
components in there. You may have a sink, that's pumping water out of a jug underneath it, and I mean they're not set up like a full-blown RV, which is where the price point comes in. A lot of them don't have a bathroom, or we got a box you can put a cartridge toilet in ours if you want to.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds terrible. Cartridge toilet.
You can go look it up.
Okay.
Andrew, pull that up too.
Everybody should have one. So it's just not what you would think. A 70-year-old is going to go do that, but it's that whole lifestyle. And you talk to them, they've done the research, and there's groups out there. That's the social media side of it. There's a whole network of places you can go and look at, and where can you park and camp for free legally? Where can you go get showers and Wi-Fi, and so that's kind of that audience you're going after. And there's a lot of people in that age group, and we live in a great state to be able to do that, because they want to go up and hike, camp, and or just travel the country. They've worked their entire career and want to just go drive around, and it's a whole lot easier than the RV side of it, because the RV side of it, you got a vehicle that's pulling a trailer that there's a lot to that. A lot of people aren't comfortable pulling a trailer, or you're driving a motorhome, at which point you get somewhere and you don't have a vehicle that's really mobile. You can't go a bunch of places and just park it in a regular parking lot. So you either are towing a vehicle behind you, and so the benefit of the vans are they can go anywhere, and you have that experience. You have a kind of a home base to go back to.
That simplicity is
then-
important too, because
Yeah.
like we have a tow behind and something's always broken. I mean, always, man. I forgot to winterize it correctly, so my sink faucet cracked in half because there
Oh,
was like a
man.
little bit of water in it, and so you're always fixing something, and then you're like not using it that much. So to be able to just grab a van and be like, "Hey, we know there's good showers and bathrooms wherever we're gonna go," I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of folks that want that.
Well, and the other side, the other group that not really surprised, because I think this is where we knew we'd get customers, is you got there's a lot of cyclists out there. There's a lot of
Mhm.
Yep.
racers that, I mean, that's what they do every weekend. They've got a day job, and on the weekends they go down to Arizona, they go to New Mexico, they
Mhm.
go be it cycling, dirt biking,
Ultra
and
marathoning, mud runners, like
Right.
there's a ton
Mhm.
of stuff. now.
and that's, they travel around, and you've got just a built-in home base to be able to go set up and make life easy. And ours, the way it's designed is kind of unique. So the layout's similar, because a lot of them are the same size. There's not a lot you can do with the floor plan, but we've got the bed can fold up into a couch, and it also can raise and lower. So
Oh,
it's
cool.
set up, you're traveling, you can raise it up, fit a dirt bike in there, strap it down inside the van.
Oh, that's cool.
Till you get wherever you're going. And a lot of them don't necessarily have that. So you're either having to tow a trailer with your bikes, or have a rack on the back that can still make it pretty difficult getting in and out of. So
For sure.
That's super cool. The one last thing I'll know about that too is like the one thing that I got like over the years was that, like, especially with comparing to a tiny house, like you take a tiny house to a festival, anywhere that you park that thing overnight, you're gonna have a crowd of people when you wake up and get outside. These things, you can drive it to downtown Denver and it's somewhat inconspicuous as opposed to a tow behind or something like that. So
For sure.
a lot of our audience love that. They're like, hey, like, for example, we had a show down here and we had like a person who was living in a van full time. She's like, can I stay at your condos? And I was like, yeah, there's like plenty of room. No one knew there was someone living, in a van full time in our
Mhm.
parking lot. It's very inconspicuous. I think folks like that. There's a lot of benefits to it. So I'm glad that you really understand the industry. It's pretty impressive, even just being in a few years.
just don't throw a big sign on the side that says free candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. Never good. I'm
Yeah.
still like concerned that there's ice cream trucks driving around. I'm like, how is that still a thing? It just seems like, I don't know. Anyways,
I just saw one last week, actually.
yeah,
Let's get one on the show.
UCCS.
ice cream.
Someone who owns
truck
an ice
driver?
cream truck business.
Right.
I've got somebody for you.
Okay.
I love it. Well, this has been, before we land the ship, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your insight, for everything, especially for 4 generations really of business, transcended into you. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned, by owning your business and all these other businesses through your family, through your career? Tell us.
Should have prepped me beforehand. Written out something.
Something really
Profound.
flowery.
I could go a lot of different directions. I would say it's enjoy what you do, and because if not, you can make a lot of money doing something, but if you're miserable doing it, it's really takes a lot of the purpose out of what you're doing.
Mhm.
And I'd say that would be the other, is what is your purpose? What are you doing? What are you doing with what you're generating ultimately? And is that family? Is that, just to have a good life? And that was one thing, from my grandpa, and having the dealership was not about selling cars. It's being able to produce income, and that can help fulfill what his mission, his purpose was. And same same thing with me and my dad, and the business is an avenue to generate revenue to be able to make an impact on others and give back. And obviously we've got a family we want to support and be able to raise our kids and do that. But ultimately, the business is there to produce, if run well, quite a bit of wealth to be able to reinvest in the community. And for us, a lot of that is to be able to then use that to share our faith. And I know from my grandpa to my dad to me, that's a huge part of it. And being able to use the business itself, one, to be able to employ people, give them somewhere to go. And in doing that, be able to not push our faith on them, but be able to hopefully expose them to our faith in God, and then take the profits we generate, be able to invest in them and invest in other nonprofits and partner with organizations that we feel are aligned with that, and help spread the gospel and spread our faith. So
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah, and I would say, like, before I even met you, I met your parents, and as a plug for why you should work with you guys are one of the most generous families I've met in Colorado Springs. I mean, almost any benefit I go to, either you guys are there or your mom or your dad are there, and that's a huge deal, right? Like, Colorado Springs has done a lot of great things for your family, and instead of just hoarding it, or I've seen some families that have just moved, right? Make a ton of money here, and then they move to Arizona. They take all the wealth and all the influence and giving. I've really appreciated the fact that you guys are so generous. And to your point about people, when I came in to drive that TRX, the young people you guys are pouring into that don't know anything, that are learning a skill, even a sales skill that will go to anywhere they go, is a huge deal. And it's a lot of volume of people coming in and out. And I know we've got a sales team and it's like, you're always going. It's hard to want to invest in somebody that you're like, they might not be here in 2 months, but I've loved the generosity I've seen. And I had a question that's more of a goofy question. If you had to buy one vehicle on your lot today and drive it for 10 years, what would you choose?
that's not fair.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
I don't know if I could narrow it down to just one. I mean, I would say in some shape or fashion, it's going to be a truck. Just, yeah, I'm a truck guy. It's practicality, and there's a lot of things you can use. So I did have a the TRX, which they are coming back out with. So yeah,
that's right.
We'll get
when are they coming?
That's a good question.
Okay,
but should be early next year. So we'll get you on the list.
It's gonna be like 1,000 horsepower or something. It's gonna be even.
Yeah.
I love the displays.
They haven't disclosed what they're. It's not gonna be the same as it was. It is gonna be the Hellcat. But
wow,
yeah, that's gonna be incredible.
Yeah. So that. Yeah, that TRX would be a fun one.
I could see you driving a Fiat, I've got like a little two-door Fiat.
No knock on the Fiat. There's, what's the old saying? There's a butt for every seat. And I mean, honestly, so I'm driving an EV Denali. It's a GMC. I have one of those stores, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is an aspect that I do love that truck. I mean, there's something. You can go a lot of different directions on the EV side of it, and I'll sell you whatever you want to buy. But there is something just the amount of power that's there.
Oh yeah, speed.
Not having a transmission, just the smoothness of how it drives is impressive. I can't limit it. But,
and theoretically, if the end of the world happens, you could charge it on solar panels. So I've thought about that factor. It's like, man,
need a lot of solar panels, but but the same thing. And that there's a lot of cool cars out there. I mean, we've got the Hummer EV, which you take when you can get 9,000 pounds moving from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds.
What? That's incredible. It's huge.
something
I
impressive.
did not know
that, so,
it went that quick.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So, and then I don't know. Yeah. So I'm not going to answer your question.
Yeah,
I'm
that
going to
was
plug
not a
a
very
bunch of
good
other
answer.
cars that we have, but I mean, Ram's got a truck coming out early next year that it's not really a hybrid, but it's an electric truck with a gas generator.
Interesting.
So the downside to hybrids is you've got two powertrains that are intertwined. So you lose the benefit of electric with reducing the number of parts in the vehicle and make it more complex with a hybrid. You get a lot of benefits there, but from a service longevity standpoint, there are a lot more things that can go wrong. And so this is set up the engine. It's got a gas engine, but all it's doing is producing electricity to recharge the batteries and power the motor. So you get kind of that dual benefit. And it's supposed to have a 600-mile range.
Wow. That's
but
really
with
good.
also the positive side, you've still got the towing capacity of what a truck needs to have without losing the range that you have from all the full electric trucks. But all the fun and power of a full electric. So
Love it.
Freaking solid, man. I love it. Yeah, when I laid eyes on the TRX when it first came out, I've been a Ford guy my whole life, but and I never liked Dodge Ram ever. But I gotta admit, that thing is a beautiful truck.
beast,
It's a
man.
beautiful truck.
Yeah.
at least you can admit your faults.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can fix that for you.
Oh, I love it, man. Well, David, thank you so much for coming on. This is your camera. Where can we find you?
Our main store's in Motor City, 1205 Motor City Drive, or perkinsmotors.com. Easiest way. Shop us 24 hours a day. I'm going to put a plug in for our La Junta stores, Perkins Chevrolet GMC in La Junta and Perkins Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of La Junta, 22 East 1st Street, La Junta, Colorado.
Love it. This has been awesome. You guys have been a staple in the Colorado Springs community for a long, long time. So thank you for coming on and gracing us with your presence, man. Really, it's been a fun conversation with you, and we're glad to finally have you on.
Appreciate you having me. I've enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, this has been the COS Business Podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one.